Welcome, everyone, to the official kickoff of Safety and Health Week. My name is Anne Tenier, and I'm the President and CEO of the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety, or as you may know us, CCOHS. To access the English and French language channels, there's an interpretation option at the bottom of your Zoom window via the globe icon or more. We've put instructions in the chat. And while we meet today on a virtual platform, I'd like to acknowledge the importance of the land which we call home and acknowledge the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of all lands that we are on today. CCOHS is situated on the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. I'm so pleased to have you join us today from all across Canada as we shine the spotlight on workplace health and safety this week with the hope that we can ignite a commitment that lasts all year long. We know that health and safety isn't just about compliance and following rules. At its core, it's a shared responsibility, and it's about caring for ourselves and our co-workers. Everyone in Canada has the right to be safe at work, safe from physical harm, harassment and violence, and from bullying and behaviors that affect our mental health and well-being. Our work environments must be safe, and workers must be provided the training, equipment, and support they need to work safely. Everyone must understand their roles and responsibilities, whether you're a student, a worker, a manager, or a leader. If we make health and safety a priority, look out for one another, speak up, and actively participate in safety practices, we can create a strong foundation for a positive and productive work environment for everyone involved. Today, we will hear about the profound, far-reaching impacts a catastrophic workplace injury or death can have on so many lives. And as upsetting and horrific as these tragedies are, we can choose to be inspired to do better, to do everything we can to make our workplaces and work sites safer. We can strengthen our resolve to protect the health and well-being of workers and help prevent further injuries and illnesses. Consumer safety advocate Ralph Nader once said, "There is no better policy in society than pursuing the health and safety of its people." So let's adopt a policy of working together to create workplaces that are safe, compassionate, inclusive, and productive for all. And without further ado, I'm pleased to share a special message from our Minister of Labour and Seniors, the Honourable Seamus O'Regan, to officially kick off Safety and Health Week.
Bonjour tout le monde. Merci de m'avoir invité à donner le coup d'envoi de la Semaine de la sécurité et de la santé. La sécurité des travailleurs est l'une de mes principales priorités en tant que ministre du Travail du Canada. Et on prend un certain nombre de mesures pour assurer la sécurité des travailleurs. Firstly, we now have 10 days of paid sick leave for all federally regulated workers, and that's big, because you shouldn't have to choose between getting paid and getting better. Secondly, we introduced free menstrual products in December because it just makes sense. We don't make people bring their own toilet paper to work, so why should they have to bring their own pads and tampons? Thirdly, we announced in this year's budget that we will be introducing a right to disconnect for Canadian workers, because answering calls and texts and emails at all hours of the night isn't just bad for your mental health, it's not very productive. And people aren't at their best when they're overworked and they're burnt out. So that's all good. But we still have work to do. Violence and harassment in the workplace is still far too common. The National Survey on Harassment of Violence at Work in Canada told us that nearly 2 out of 3 workers experienced harassment or violence at work between 2020 and 2022. That is unacceptable. No one should have to go to work in fear of violence and harassment. But there are people in our offices and job sites working day in and day out to change that, to make it clear that violence and harassment is not acceptable, to protect workers, to build the workplaces that we all deserve. None of this is going to be easy. We will stay vigilant. We set up a registry of harassment and violence investigators 3 years ago, trusted professional investigators that workers and employers can call to name, identify, and root out harassment and violence in the workplace. Investigators from across the country signed on to the new registry, and they've shown us just how valuable the service can be. We're already looking to add more investigators to the list so that they can reach even more workers and make their workplaces safer. We are also going to put a stop to the misclassification of workers. When employers intentionally misclassify their employees as independent contractors, when they don't inform them of their ability to work as an employee, they're denied important rights and benefits that employees have. Things like overtime payment, paid sick leave, injury compensation, pensions. For many truck drivers, this is still the case. So we have set up a team of investigators to put an end to it. Everyone deserves a safe and healthy workplace, and it takes a team effort, employers and unions, governments, to make that a reality. But when workplaces are safer, we all reap the rewards. Workers can put in their best efforts, employers can build up their businesses, and the economy thrives. We all prosper. So thank you all for your work, keeping Canadians safe and healthy. And here's to another Safety and Health Week. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister, for sharing your perspective with us and getting Safety and Health Week off to a great start. We share a goal to make Canada one of the safest countries in the world in which to work. Our next guest is Shirley Hickman, the Executive Director of Threads of Life, and also a national partner in Safety and Health Week. But more importantly, Threads is an organization that offers support to families who have experienced a workplace tragedy. Over to you, Shirley.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you to everyone who is attending today. And I would like to welcome you to this opportunity to reinforce your commitment to creating a safe workplace. The question then is, how do we do that? Each year, I ask you if one person can make a difference. And you answer that question for yourself. Are you that one person? Safety is circular, really has no beginning or ending. We learn to tie up our shoes so we don't trip when we walk. Does your safety start at home, at work, or when you're enjoying your community activities? Can one be more important than the other? Well, I don't think so, but we do have to think about playing safely as much as we do working safely. Each activity we do in our daily life has an effect on another piece of our life, including those we work with and those at home. For instance, if you don't stretch before you go out to play hockey or out for a game of golf, you will likely end up with a sore muscle. So how does that affect your activities at home or at work? We should always be reminding ourselves we all own a significant piece of the safety of ourselves. When we do, we also take care of everyone else in our lives. At home, we don't watch a family member do something that is unsafe. We stop them and we seek if there is a better way, a safer way. We teach our children to cross the street at a crosswalk, but also to stop and stand at the curb and to look both ways. Do we do the same in our workplace? Stand and look at both ways? If so, not only are you watching out for yourself, but for your coworker. We watch for the physical hazards, but we also need to watch for the emotional hazards. Do we speak to our coworkers, or if you are a supervisor, those on your team as you would want to be spoken to? If we notice someone doesn't appear to be themselves, do we inquire if there is something we can do, or do we just go ahead and do our task and ignore the individual? Yes, we don't want to intrude on a team member's personal life if they don't want to share something. But just acknowledging that something doesn't seem quite right. Probably all they want is a listening ear. We know we can't fix things for other people, but we can show that we care. When a worker is injured physically, it not only impacts their life, but also the lives of their family members and those that they connect with in the community. But it also affects each individual emotionally. Our mental health is as important as our physical health. Remember, you are that one person who can make a difference to yourself, your family, your coworkers, your team. You watch out for your own works to ensure that you work safely, your work site looks safe, and your coworker is working safely. You share your concern for others. It is now 28 years since our son, Tim, went to work and didn't come home. Threads of Life is currently supporting more than 3,600 Canadian family members. And on behalf of those family members, I want to thank you each for your support. It is now my pleasure to introduce Brenda Duham. She and her family wish that someone had taken the time to listen. Brenda is one person who has made a decision to make a difference, and she has joined us today to remind us all to listen. And I thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Shirley, for inviting me. You can hear me fine?
Yes, thank you.
Well, it was the spring of 1979, and I was visiting my longtime friend Germaine when her brother Bob showed up. It was the first time I had ever laid eyes on him, and I was twitterbated. Bobby came from a large family, 5 brothers and 5 sisters. He was a twin born minutes before his brother Albert. Bobby always teased Albert that it took a man to break trail. On one of the occasions, someone said to Bob, "You two don't look like twins." Bobby answered, "Same mom, different dads." His dad chuckled, but that wasn't his mom's reaction. He was a good dad. I only ever seen him angry with the kids once. He scolded them and it was over. He had an amazing work ethic, always doing whatever he needed to do to bring home a paycheck. When the kids left home, I went and got my safety tickets so I could go to work in the north with him building oil leases and oil lease roads. It wasn't until this time I realized how talented he was on any piece of equipment. He made it look like poetry operating that equipment. While in the north, I fell more in love with his kind and gentle soul. He spent many of his lunch breaks and coffee breaks teaching some young laborer how to operate a piece of equipment so they could make an easier living. That was my Bobby. For about 10 years, I had suffered with shoulder and neck pain. And finally, in the winter of 2014, the doctors discovered I had an old spinal cord injury that was being aggravated by what I was doing. The doctor said I could literally be paralyzed from my neck down with one wrong step, and I needed surgery immediately. 3 days later, I woke up from surgery pain-free. He also told me that I would be on permanent disability. So in the spring of 2015, Bobby applied and got the job at a rural municipality as a grader operator. This meant he could be home with me evenings and weekends. He worked for 2 years without incident, and was a favorite among the councillors and the Reeve. But in the fall of 2016, a new Reeve was elected. He had been a Reeve many, many years before. One of the roads Bobby was to keep maintained was the east side grid, and the councillor for this division was a woman. She and the administrator at the rural municipality both lived down this road. This road also took you to all the resorts on the east side of Turtle Lake. It started Easter weekend. We woke up Sunday morning to 30 to 40 centimeters of heavy wet snow, and it was still snowing. Around noon, Bobby got a call from the female councillor for the east side grid, wanting Bobby to come and blade the snow off the road, as some people were having problems getting to their destinations. So away he went. The snow meant it took him more than an hour to drive to where the grader was, and then another half an hour to drive the grader to the start of the east side grid. And at some point, there was a lot of vehicles behind him, so he pulled over to let them by, and sliding into the ditch, and he got stuck. He called the councillor, and she came to assess the problem, and then told Bob to get a farmer with a tractor to pull him out. Bobby found a farmer with a tractor to come and pull him out. And when the tractor started to pull, a tire came off the grader, making it impossible to move it. Bobby called the councillor again. She said, "We'll see if the farmer can give you a ride to your truck. I can't. I have grandchildren visiting." The farmer took Bobby to his truck and then said, "I better hurry up. All my family's home for Easter and supper will be waiting." It seemed like from then until the end of June, it rained 3 to 4 times a week, making it impossible for the 3 grader operators to do their jobs. In early May, the 3 grader operators were put on probation, accused that they weren't doing their jobs. It was muddy and there wasn't anything you could do except wait for it to dry. Bobby had told them, "You guys don't need grader operators here, you need a miracle." At some time later, the 3 grader operators were called in to attend a meeting with the 6 councillors, the Reeve, and the administrator. The other 2 grader operators were taken off of probation, but not Bobby. At the meeting, one of the councillors asked why Bobby wasn't taken off of, Anyway, they said that the administrator said, "Well, I want to teach him a lesson." And then the councillor jumped up and said, "Yeah, let's teach him a lesson." The councillor that asked the question quit that day. Bobby was harassed every day at work. He asked workers' compensation for help. They asked him to write a story of what happened. He did, and they denied him help. He asked occupational health and safety for help. They took a statement from Bobby and made sure the municipality had a harassment and bullying policy in place. They did. He asked the safety officer at work for help. He said he would see what he could do, as the other safety officer was one of the people harassing Bobby. Bobby went on stress leave in June, and near the end of August, it was arranged to have mediation with everyone, meaning the operators, the councillors, the Reeve, and a mediator. But when we arrived, we were surprised to see that only the Reeve was there. When we asked why, just him, he said he wanted it settled in a timely fashion. Bobby looked at me and said, "This isn't going to go good." This was the first time I had met the Reeve, and I was shocked to see that he was in his mid-70s. And he had shared with me that he was in North Battleford anyway on dialysis. And I asked him, why would he want to be a councillor at his age with health problems? And he said, "I'm sick of watching my roads go to hell." In the meeting, it was decided that Bobby would go back to work the following Monday, August 28th. My daughter invited me to go with her and my grandson to hockey camp in Saskatoon. Bobby encouraged me to go because he was going back to work. We left for Saskatoon on Sunday, August 27th. Bobby went back to work on August 28th, and he called me at coffee time and said that it was going okay and that there was a meeting scheduled for the next day at the shop. He was surprised that when he arrived that the administrator was already there, and she immediately started verbally attacking him, asking him why was her name brought up in the report and the statement from Occupation Health and Safety. Bob said she was acting crazy, so he left the building until others arrived. Later that day, the administrator called him and said, "You can run, but you can't hide. We had a GPS installed in your grader while you were gone." When he called me that evening, he told me what had gone on, and I encouraged him to take more time off, as his doctor had suggested. He said he thought he just might do that. The last call he made was to the safety officer at work, the one who wasn't bullying him, and Bobby told him that he wouldn't be in the next day. This safety officer was a good man who did nothing. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "All it takes for evil to continue is for good people to do nothing." And there was a whole lot of good people doing nothing. On August 30th by coffee time, I never got a call from Bob, and this was unusual. We talked every day at coffee time. I tried calling him several times, but his phone was off. So I pinged his phone and knew it was at home. And I got this ugly feeling in the pit of my stomach. We were en route to the arena, and I didn't want to worry my daughter or my grandson. So I kept it to myself until we arrived at the arena. And then I called my sister Kelly, who lived down the street. She went over to her house and said that everything was locked up and all the curtains and blinds were closed. And that was unusual. We never ever closed the living room drapes ever. She got into the house and she said, "He's sleeping on the couch." I said, "Wake him up." She said, "I couldn't wake him up." I said, "Is he breathing?" She said he was. I told her to turn on Bob's phone and that I was going to hang up and call 911, and then I was going to call her back on Bob's phone. I wanted to hear what was going on. A first responder arrived really quickly, and I heard his voice say, "Bobby, stay with me." And that's when I told my daughter what I thought was going on. She arranged for her son to be taken care of by a friend, and we left for North Battleford, as that's where we were told they were taking him. By this time, my sister Pam had arrived at my house, and she took Bobby's phone and followed the ambulance. Bobby's heart stopped more than 6 times in 50 kilometers, and it was then decided that they would airlift him from North Battleford to Saskatoon via Stars. By this time, my daughter and I were almost in North Battleford, so we turned around and went back to Saskatoon. At the hospital, we were told to call the family. Tests were done, and we were told there was no brain activity. So I asked for more tests to be done to see if there was anything we could donate as far as organs. They discovered that was far too much damage done by the overdose of heart medication, that there was nothing left to donate. As a family, we made the decision to unplug him. Bobby's life officially ended August 31st, 2017. At this time, I didn't know that Bobby had left a note and that the RCMP had taken it. In this letter, he named everyone that he had asked for help and said how worthless he felt that no one listened. He also had a message for me and the kids. At Bobby's memorial service, I had the urge to tell a little of what happened. I couldn't have one more person tell me how selfish he was for having done this. In 38 years that we had lived in and around Vaughan, I had never seen more people than there was at my Bobby's service. That winter, Bob's brother and sister-in-law invited me to go with them to Vancouver and spend 3 weeks with them there. While waiting at the airport to return home, WCB called and said they were going to take on Bobby's claim. This made me angry. After Bobby's death, workers' compensation and occupational health and safety done independent investigations. Their findings were that Bobby was treated excessively and unusually in a normal workplace. Up to this point, I couldn't get a lawyer or any news media to listen. But after WCB and OHS finished their investigations, a lawyer in Saskatoon listened to me. He took $10,000 and then told me there was nothing he could do because WCB is a no-fault insurance. Bobby's story went nationwide. And as a result of that, I know it saved one life. Leanne and I are still friends today. I would love to go to her university graduation. Workers' Compensation Board offered me a package. We were not wealthy and I was on permanent disability. Unfortunately, the craziness never stopped there. In June of 2018, I was camping at our spot on my sister's land in the rural municipality. My sister and brother-in-law had gone to Lloydminster for appointments and I stayed at my camper. When I got back, the three of us went out for supper. When we returned, my nephew, who was also there to camp, said the police had showed up and said that somebody was shooting at the grader operator from my sister's land that day. The next morning, all over Facebook, there was a picture of my sister's land circled on a municipal map, urging the public to come forth with any news they knew of anybody shooting at the grader operator from that location. In talking to the police, they don't believe it was the marks on the were from a gun, and there was never any more contact from the police. But I felt that these people were almost willing to do anything to get back at my family, so I moved out. The RN appealed, the rural municipality appealed the decision made by the Workers' Compensation Board, and they lost that appeal. They then appealed with the Court of Tribunal, and it took about 5 months for them to make the decision that the rural municipality was guilty of bullying. And I don't really know how I have made it this far, and if tears could bring him back, he would be here and he would live forever. He was a great husband, dad, son, brother, uncle, and friend. That was my body. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley, and thank you, Brenda, for sharing your story with us. It's a painful, but very important reminder, the far-reaching impact that one catastrophic injury or illness can have on loved ones, and the pain that you and your family, the community has gone through. I just can't even imagine. And I know that you share our hope one day that we can prevent these kinds of tragedies, whether they're through bullying and harassment, as you have so poignantly described for us, or through other occupational injuries or illnesses. So we don't have families in need of the support that is so well done through Threads of Life. So thank you both. Thank you, Brenda, for sharing your story. So this takes us to the finale of the one of the highlights of our program. We finally get to find out who takes the prize in the National Youth Video Contest. So this year, we had 8 videos submitted from the provinces and territories. They were insightful and imaginative, each with excellent safety messages. And as with every year, the talent of these youth did not disappoint. If you haven't already, I encourage you to watch the whole playlist of entries on the CCOHS YouTube channel and see for yourself. So we're going to start by showing you the 3rd place winning video entitled "Good Visibility is No Accident."
Meet Colin, an experienced worker at an oil company. He delivers oil to homes, businesses, and more, which sometimes involves hazardous workplace conditions. Let's see how this incident could have been prevented. Did you notice what he forgot? Let's try that again. Beacons and four-way hazard lights. Steel toe safety boots. High-vis reflective gear. Hard hat and safety glasses. Visual contact with traffic. Colin has safely completed his delivery. Good visibility is no accident.
And I'm happy to award our $1,000 third prize to Bethany Reed of Corner Brook Regional High in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. Bethany's school will also receive a matching prize. So well done, Bethany. And next, we'll take a look at our second place winning video entitled Distractions: How to Prevent Hand and Finger Injuries.
I'm gonna go open the tills right now. We should be good to open in a few minutes. For today, just focus on stock and getting the new products out to the customers.
Got it.
This video was produced by Carol Jazz Cruz, Ethan Langit, Sean Monferro, and Evan Rivard from Sisler High School in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Congratulations to the whole team on taking home the $1,500 second prize, and your school will also receive a matching prize. Finally, we will play the first place winning video entitled Do Not Disturb. It gives me great pleasure to announce that the first place winner of the National Youth Video Contest is Leo Teixeira of Kitsilano Secondary School in Vancouver, British Columbia. Leo and his school would each receive a $2,000 prize. So congratulations, Leo, on this outstanding production. And I think Leo is here today. So would you like to say a few words?
I would. Well, I'd like to start by thanking the wonderful people at WorkSafe BC and all WorkSafe organizations all over Canada. This project has made it immediately apparent to me how important your work is. I would also like to thank you for supporting the creative process of youth all over Canada. I learned a lot making this video, and I think it was a valuable experience for several of my peers. And I think it even changed the way that I look at my phone. So even if that was my only takeaway from the video, I think it was worthwhile. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. And congratulations again. We wish you all the best in your future creative endeavors. I'm sure there will be many. So before we close, I want to acknowledge our panel of very busy judges for their time in evaluating the videos. Thank you to Chelsea Wong, volunteer with the Youth Advisory Group with Youth Mental Health Canada, Gareth Jones, President and CEO of the Canada Safety Council, Ken Welsh, Manager of Operations at the Aboriginal Peoples Television Network, and Shirley Hickman, Executive Director of Threads of Life. And thanks to all of you for spending some of your day with us. Safety and Health Week is only 1 week, but our commitment to creating workplaces and environments that are physically and psychologically safe must remain strong all year long. We hope to see you at other Safety and Health Week events. You can register using the link in the chat. So on behalf of our guests, Threads of Life, and our staff, I wish you a wonderful and fruitful Safety and Health Week.